Have you ever wondered just how strong Jinwoo's shadow army actually is? Like, is Igris stronger than Tusk? Would you survive a 1v1 against Iron? Spoilers, absolutely not. With solo leveling Season 1 done and Season 2 now finished, we've already seen Jinwoo go from solo scrub to the literal Shadow Monarch. So today, we're breaking down the actual power levels of his army based on what we've seen so far in the anime. Alright, but before we get into who's stronger than who, let's just get something straight. How do Jinwoo's shadows even work? Like, how does he go from dead body to loyal monster soldier punching through walls? Well, it's kind of like this. Every time Jinwoo takes down an enemy, there's a chance he can extract its shadow. Emphasis on chance, not a guarantee. He actually has to will the extraction, and even then, it's like rolling a dice. There's a chance, but no guarantee. Sometimes the shadow just crumbles and fades away. No second life, no comeback story. Sad times. But if the corpse is strong enough, or if Jinwoo's own level is high enough, boom, the shadow then gets pulled into his army. And what's really cool about this is Jinwoo can see the shadow grade right away. Simply put, shadows are ranked just like hunters in the real world. Think of it like this. Normal grade are basic foot soldiers, good for swarming and mass numbers. Elite grade are stronger, faster, and slightly smarter. They're not just meat shields. Knight grades. Now this is where things get spicy. Knight grades are capable of leading other shadows into battle. Marshal grades are absolute shadow generals. They command entire divisions. And of course, the Grand Marshal grade, the top of the top, which are basically mini monarchs under Jinwoo. And here's another fun part, shadows can level up over time. The more a shadow fights, the stronger it gets. They're not static. Jinwoo's shadow army is literally grinding XP alongside him the whole time. So someone who starts as an elite could potentially evolve to a knight, then a marshal, as long as they keep stacking kills and of course surviving those brutal fights. Also, shadows are nearly immortal as long as Jinwoo has mana. If a shadow gets destroyed in a battle, Jinwoo simply needs to pump some mana to revive them. It's like having infinite continues in a game, except your units actually get better every time that they die and come back. So yeah, it's safe to say that Jinwoo's army is not just some collection of spooky zombies, rather a living and growing force, which honestly makes him one of the most terrifying characters in the series. Even if you manage to beat Jinwoo's shadows, they're just gonna come back stronger for the next fight. Talk about an unfair advantage. Well, now that we've done some describing of how Jinwoo's shadow army works, let's actually meet the squad. If you've already seen Season 1 and 2, you've definitely got a few favorites by now. Let's start with the obvious kingpin, Beru. Simply put, Beru is terrifying. Remember the Jeju Island arc? Beru was the Ant King, the final boss of the dungeon, and honestly, he was already a monster before Jinwoo even showed up. Beru wiped out entire raid parties like it was just a warm-up. And here's the plot twist with all this. After Jinwoo takes him down in that insane fight, he extracts Beru's shadow, and now Beru becomes his deadliest weapon. Not just powerful, but also ridiculously loyal. And it's really cool that Beru talks with that eerie, knightly respect that just screams, "I will destroy everything for you, my king." Next on the list, we have Igris. If you've been paying attention since Season 1, Igris is kind of Jinwoo's day one ride or die. The blood red commander Igris was already an elite boss when Jinwoo first encountered him. And after becoming a shadow, Igris didn't just keep his power, he grew it way beyond his original capabilities. Igris is basically the frontline commander of Jinwoo's army. If there's a major fight with Jinwoo involved, you can bet that Igris is charging headfirst with that massive sword. Now on our list we come to Iron. So let's be real here, Iron isn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but he is, like his name implies, an absolute tank. He's definitely your classic brute force character. Smash first, ask questions never. In big battles, Iron's the guy who soaks up hits and keeps enemies distracted, while the more strategic shadows go for the kill shots. And of course, we can't forget Tusk, the Shadow Mage. He is low-key one of the most important in the army because he brings that long-range firepower. Tusk is all about destructive magic and area attacks, which balance out any melee-heavy roster. What's really cool about this is how Jinwoo's army feels like an actual RPG party. We've got the tank in Iron, we've got our DPS with Igris and Beru, and our mage with Tusk. And of course, as Jinwoo levels up, so does his whole Shadow Army. So we've talked about the squad, but let's zoom out for a second and look how Jinwoo himself and his army evolve over time. The thing is, Jinwoo doesn't just get stronger alone. His shadows grow with him, and that is so satisfying to watch in seasons 1 and 2. If you remember early on when Jinwoo first extracted shadows, they were, for lack of a better term, basic. Like, early Igris was cool, but not nearly as powerful as he becomes later. And as Jinwoo ranks up to S rank and beyond, his army goes from a small squad to a full-blown battalion of monsters. And it's not just numbers that count, but raw power. Let's take Beru for example. When Jinwoo first resurrects him, Beru is already insanely strong. However, later, especially in Season 2, you can tell that Beru is getting smarter and faster and much more deadly in combat. He's not just following orders, he's reading battles, making calls, and leading squads on his own. Same goes for Igris. His swordmanship sharpens over time, quite literally, and you can actually see his presence grow. He's not just Jinwoo's knight anymore, he's more like a general of the army in the making. And we can't forget how Jinwoo upgrades his shadows by harvesting mana from dead enemies. Every big battle is now like a farm run for Jinwoo. The more mana he collects, the stronger he can make his shadow army. It's this beautiful loop of feedback. Win fights, grow stronger, win even bigger fights, grow stronger again, and then repeat all that. Also, there's this pretty subtle emotional layer to it as well. Jinwoo's connection with his shadows gets deeper as the story progresses. The shadows aren't just tools, but rather they're loyal comrades. You can really feel this in the writing sometimes during those tense moments when Jinwoo calls them back from near destruction, or in some cases when they willingly sacrifice themselves in order to protect him. And trust us, Season 2 is where this bond really starts to hit it off. You can tell the shadows aren't just pieces on a chessboard anymore, rather they're more like a family for Jinwoo. And families go to war together. So let's talk about power scaling in the context of Season 2's biggest battles. This is where things get really spicy. We're now going to look into how power scaling explodes during the biggest battles in Season 2. By the time we're arriving at these fights in the story, Jinwoo's basically operating on an entirely different level than everyone else. It's not just about individual monsters or hunters anymore. It's armies versus armies, nations versus existential threats. And Jinwoo? Well, of course, Jinwoo is the general, the commander, and the front line all rolled into one. Let's take another look at the Jeju Island raid. This arc is honestly a masterclass in power escalation for the story. You've got S-rank hunters from across Korea coming together because the ant threat is just that much of a problem. At first, you might kind of feel maybe that they've got a shot if they all work together. But then Beru shows up, before Jinwoo even arrives that is, and wipes the floor with them like they're just practice dummies. Oh, but the moment that Jinwoo steps in, oh man, the battlefield really takes a turn then. Jinwoo, of course, solos the Ant King with terrifying efficiency. And that's what's kind of wild about the power scaling in solo leveling. Jinwoo makes threats that once terrified entire nations look like side quests. What I personally love here the most is that Jinwoo's power isn't just brute strength, it's also tactical. He commands an army of thousands, positions them all perfectly, and times his strikes for maximum effect. Watching him operate is like watching a grandmaster chess player who also just happens to bench press mountains. And to be fair, by the end of Season 2, you're left asking yourself something like, if Jinwoo's here already, then what's next? Because at this point, the guy's not just a player in the game, he's kind of rewriting the rules of the game. So we think it's pretty fair to say that Jinwoo's rise from weak to unstoppable is probably just the beginning. Seasons 1 and 2 are setting the stage for us, but the real war is coming. Trust us, you're not going to want to miss that. So if you're also hyped for the next season, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more solo leveling breakdowns if you haven't already.